This week on Hooligan Nation, we laugh a lot. And so will you. What could be the worst idea that KISS ever came up with? I think I found a winner. And if you can't laugh at My Uncle is a Raft, then this episode is not for you. So you got
nothing to lose. You got.
You wanted the best. Well, they retired. So you got two dudes in a garage.
Talking KISS. Welcome back to the Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric podcast. I'm Anthony.
I'm Rocco.
Yes, you are. You are Rocco. And boy, are we going to laugh this week. Let me tell you something. If you don't laugh and I don't laugh and they don't laugh, then we didn't do our jobs this week. I truly believe that. I'm just going to tell the Hooligan Nation what the title of this episode is. Kiss and misses the bad ideas behind the makeup. Boy, if that don't sound funny already, I don't know what does. Let's recap our last episode and discuss parental influence in music. You got anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah. I didn't know how the episode was going to turn out. It was nice. I thought Kylie did a great job and added some really good content and input. And I've always thought about the relationship between a parent and a child and growth when you grow up, that you don't really like each other's music. I think in most cases, I had the benefit of liking my parents' music for the most part. My mother loved disco. My father loved oldies, and I liked both. So it gave me a very, wide range of music that I liked. And I know me and you both kind of led our kids to like our music too. Like our kids both like a lot of different music, but I think it's safe to say your daughters are KISS fans, and my daughter's a big KISS fan too. So I think we did our job as a parent.
The one thing, the biggest thing I took from that episode, at least for me, and I must have done something right, I guess, because everything she talked about was musical. It wasn't visual. And that's the big knock that you hear from everybody is, oh, everybody listened to KISS with their eyes. Nobody listened to KISS with their ears. If you go through that episode and you watch that episode, she likes KISS music. Doesn't matter whether they had the makeup on or the costumes or the stage show. She likes KISS for the music. I thought that was a very big, important thing.
Well, and like, when you're a KISS fan, you have no choice but to defend them a lot, right? People always have something to say about KISS. If you're not a KISS fan, oh, they're all smoke and mirrors. It's the makeup and stuff. And I think I've told you this analogy before. I've always looked at KISS like a party. You're on the opposite side of the road and you see commotion and then like a party going across the street, and you're like, oh man, what the hell is that? I want to check it out. Just like you're looking at the makeup, you're like, what the hell is this? And you get in there into the party, and you're having a blast. There's like great looking girls all around. It's great music. Everything's cool, and you stay at the party. And with KISS, you saw the makeup and you saw the pomp and circumstance, but 50 plus years you kept on coming, and that was because of the music and the substance behind it.
News. What do you got for news?
I have two bits of news. One of them is Motorhead. They have let me see if I can. I'm just going to pull up my content here. So Motorhead has several news items. They have a lost album from 1976 featuring the band's classic lineup. It's being released as the Manticore tapes on June 27th. Additionally, a statue of Lemmy, the band's late frontman, was unveiled in his hometown of Burslem, Stoke-on-Trent. Motorhead also recently released a video for Leaving Here from the Manticore tapes. And the reason why I feel it's prevalent, again, Motorhead wasn't a huge when it comes to music, album sales, but Motorhead is known, and Lemmy specifically is known to be kind of like an Alice Cooper, just a really good dude. And a very big influence on a lot of bands. I know Metallica is a band that always reference them as a big influence too. So I thought it was noteworthy. And then the other thing I have is Lita Ford has a collaboration with Dora coming up, and the statement she makes about it is it'll reduce you to tears. So there's some good stuff coming out from Lita in the future, some future music, and you can find that information. It's actually a pretty big article. I just wanted to give you a little teaser. You go onto Blabbermouth, you can find out more information about that. She's also on the album that she's going to be coming out with. I'm going to say the name wrong, so I'm not going to say the name, but he knows where I'm going. It's the guy from the Plasmatics. His name is
Jean Bouvier.
Thank you for not making me have to say that name.
It might be Jean Beauvoir.
Beauvoir?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember, but it is
that
not.
Dude who
it is not Jan Bouver.
No, it's definitely not, and that's where I would have went. And coincidentally, he's done a lot with KISS too. So,
all right. First things first. I think it's fitting that Lemmy gets a statue. I think it's unfortunate that Lemmy gets a statue posthumously, but you know, most people don't get statues, and the ones that do usually are already dead by the time they get them, unless their name is Michael Jordan. But I've always heard from watching interviews and reading interviews, I've never come across anybody that's had anything bad to say about Lemmy. And that actually goes across a lot of different genres of music. Lemmy seems to have been a great guy. So good for Lemmy. I don't know that Lemmy has any family, but congratulations to his family if he does. And as far as Lita Ford, just kiss me deadly, baby. I mean, if you're our age and you grew up in the MTV era and you saw the Kiss Me Deadly video, you know that 2 episodes in a row, I needed a minute. So I like whatever Lita does. I don't care what it is. I don't care how old she is. I don't care. I just like Lita, period. My news. You know, we haven't discussed this, and the simple reason why we haven't discussed this is because I didn't really believe it was actually going to happen. But since we're, I think, a little over 2 weeks away, I guess it's going to happen. So I wanted to bring up, before it was too late, the Black Sabbath final show that they have titled Back to the Beginning. The reason why I'm bringing it up here and the reason why it's important is because it just came out a couple weeks ago that they're going to live stream it. So you don't have to be in England to see it, which I will be live streaming it. The information, I took this from an article. No, I don't remember where the article was, so fire me. Black Sabbath's final show, titled Back to the Beginning, will take place on July 5th, 2025 at Villa Park in Birmingham, England. The concert will feature the original Black Sabbath lineup of Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward. The event will also include performances by a variety of other rock and metal artists, including Metallica, Slayer, Pantera, Gojira, Alice in Chains, Anthrax, and Mastodon, among others. Now, I'm going to stop there. The among others are almost bigger than the ones named. Sammy Hagar, Zakk Wylde, Jake E. Lee, Wolfgang Van Halen, Slash, and Tom Morello. All are going to be there along with actually many others. So it's a pretty big event. The show will be live streamed worldwide. The concert is a charity event with profits being donated to Cure Parkinson's, Birmingham Children's Hospital, and Acorn Children's Hospice. The show marks the first time the original lineup has performed together in 2 decades. If you guys are interested in more info or you want to live stream it, it's backtothebeginning.com. Music we're listening to. You got anything?
Yeah, there's two bands that I'm trying to listen to a lot of their catalog. I don't have all the songs listed down, but Three Doors Down and 3 Days Grace. 3 Days Grace, I mentioned an awful lot in the podcast. I love them a lot. But I'm learning their songs on guitar and singing. So I've been diving into their catalogs and trying to learn as many of their songs as possible.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Are you on 3 Days Grace payroll?
Am I on 3 Days Grace payroll?
Yeah, as often as you bring them up, I hope you're getting a cut of profits or something.
Nah, you know what? When I like a band, I really like them, and I tend to like them a lot.
Are you trying to get us a sponsorship deal from 3 Days Grace?
Maybe you never know. Wait and
No.
see.
My email inbox is still empty, so it's not working. My music that I'm listening to happens to be new music. Good on me. Look at me getting out of my comfort zone. Well, to an extent. I am listening to Firehouse's, yes, that Firehouse's new song, Mighty Fine Lady. And I have to admit, the moment I put it on, it took me right back to 1990. Now, for anybody that doesn't know this, unfortunately, the lead singer of Firehouse, CJ Snare, died last year of cancer. Way too young, by the way. But the cool thing is, and this is what I have heard, before CJ Snare died, he actually was involved and had input in replacing the lead singer. His name is Nate Peck. I don't know much about him. All I know about him is that I believe he was a contestant on American Idol, and he sounds to be a dead ringer to me of CJ Snare. He sounds a lot like him. I've watched a few YouTube videos of live performances, and I think the new song is a great, great song.
Well, well, one thing I was going to say, one thing that Firehouse is mostly known for is their power ballad, "Love of a Lifetime." But this song is fire. It's got a great riff. It's got an awesome bass drum intro to it. It's a really good rocking tune.
And one more nugget for everybody. I would normally kill. That's a great. That I like that. Where'd you get that?
I ordered it online, Hooligan Nation.
Yeah, it's not up yet, folks, but it will be hopefully by the time this airs.
What's this?
I like that one too. My God, whoever designed that stuff is a merchandising genius. Paul or Gene, if you need any help with merchandising, don't call me. I got my hands full as it is.
And by the way, hooligans, we're not going to become those guys because we can't stand when people show with their merchandise. We're going to let you know where you can get it, but we're not going to be those guys.
Yeah, we're not going to be those guys. Never.
Never.
But it tastes so good coming out of this cup. Guys, I got one more tidbit when it comes to Firehouse. And normally I would kill a band. No, tid.
Oh.
With a D. That's a different show. We can talk about doing that podcast at a later date.
Okay.
I got a little tidbit when it comes to Firehouse. I thought this was interesting. Shocker. And normally I would kill a band for this. I would kill them. But because Firehouse is like a mid-tier, lower level band that I do like them. I do think they're a very good band. I have seen them live. I saw them live 2 or 3 times with CJ Snare, and they were a very good show. But they're a mid-level band. They're a lower level band. This new single is not yet available on any of the streaming platforms. You have to go to their website, which I believe is firehousemusic.com, and you have to buy the single. And I think it's 99 cents or $1.99. And hey, good on them. They got to make money. They're a working touring band. If you know anything about Firehouse, you know they pretty much tour 12 months out of the year. They play 2,000 seat theaters or less. So if you like Firehouse and you appreciate the new music, support them. I can tell you right now, I supported them. Like I said, it was 99 cents or $1.99. And if you're too cheap for that, hey, that's okay. We we accept cheap people also. If you decide you're saving your money to buy one of these, or one of these, or one of the shirts. And still my favorite part of the episode, now we get to go to our poll. Our weekly poll can be found on our community tab and on our Facebook group, the Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric podcast. In case you don't know that and you want to slide over to either one of them and vote on our weekly poll, we put it out Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday of every week, depending on the week. There currently is one up. No, I don't know what it is. Yes, that is because I can't remember, and also because we film a couple weeks in advance. Our question this week was, which solo album or album outside of KISS, released by any current or past member of KISS, is your favorite? Father Rocco. Thank you. What say you?
The Ace Frehley solo album. It's not close. It's one of my favorite all-time rock albums. Period. It was. I mean, again, that sets a standard for a lot of albums, and I like the Frehley's Comet album. I told you before, I'm starting to get into Union. I'm listening to a little bit of Union. I don't know enough about the catalog, and the new Ace stuff. I really don't know a lot. 10,000 Volts. I haven't really listened to a lot of that yet, and I know there's some good stuff on that. But everything I've heard as far as the solo albums and KISS, nothing tops Ace.
What do you think the Hooligan Nation said?
I would say the 78 album. Same as me.
Well, let's find out. There were 5 albums voted on, and we got 2 comments we have to read after that I thought were both eloquent and pertinent. Both are big words for me. Coming in at 8%, the Union album with Bruce Kulick was a shock. Also coming in at 8%, Vinnie Vincent Invasion. Also a shock. Coming in at 15%, Paul Stanley's 1978 album. And I think what may be the shocker of everything is coming in at 23%, Frehley's Comet 1987 album, which I think is a great album. But I'm shocked it's this high on this poll. And coming in as the winner, not much of a shock, but how close it is a little bit of a shock to me, is Ace Frehley's 1978 album with 38% of the votes.
Well, I think I told you, like, between the two Ace albums, the one that had the most impact on me was Frehley's Comet, because I don't think in my lifetime there was an album I looked more forward to hearing and seeing singles, and especially MTV, get a chance to finally see what Ace looks like without makeup. Like, the suspense for that album, I think I had more suspense for the Frehley's Comet album than any album I ever had in my lifetime. And it lived up to the billing because it was a good album. But it's still second tier to the 78 Ace album to me.
You know what? Thinking about it, I have to agree with you. I don't think any album, you know what? Psycho Circus would give Frehley's Comet a run for their money. But other than that, it's 1 and 2.
You don't get to Psycho Circus without Frehley coming out to Frehley's Comet.
No, I understand that, but I mean the impact and the weight and the build up.
No, I get you, definitely.
And I also agree. I think the 78 album is about this much over the 87 album. I think that's a great album. Whenever you join up Eddie Kramer and Ace Frehley, and then you throw in Anton Fig, I think you have magic. And Todd Howarth and John Regan in that band at that time just did nothing but help that whole sound.
Right. And I think I told you, like, one of the things I love about that album, and I know you're not a huge instrumental fan, but I know you love Fractured Mirror. To me, and I said it at the time, another thing, it's such a perfect album because I felt like Fractured Mirror put such a nice little bow at the end of the album. I felt like the album just fit. the best word I can use is the album fit really well together.
We got a couple comments from a couple people. Our overachiever, our friend Victor Ruiz from Signals to Mars podcast. If you don't know what the Signals to Mars podcast is, slide over to Victor's channel. He's got a YouTube channel, Signals to Mars podcast, and he's also available on all the podcast platforms. He puts out a good product, does his homework, and definitely is committed to what he does. Victor stated, Eric is kind of difficult. If you say Badlands, you have to say Black Sabbath, Alice Cooper, and a million other things he's played on, which is true. I think Ace's catalog is probably the best, but Bruce's Audio Dog, BK3, and Union give his catalog a run for the money. As much as I love Ace, his last few solo albums aren't as good as his first few, in my opinion. As much as Steve Brown wants to toot the last album's horn, it's not close to Anomaly or anything that came out before it. And that's without considering his covers albums. Love Ace, but some of the louder stuff is just okay to me. Look, I like 10,000 volts. Steve Brown comes across sometimes as a little too much of a self-promoter, but I do like 10,000 volts. I don't think it's anywhere near the original Fraley's Comet album, and I don't think it's not even the same universe as Ace's 1978 album. Second comment comes from one of our most loyal and one of our listeners that's been around since pretty much the beginning, Pamplemousse. He says, without hesitation, Fraley's Comet debut, strong songs, Eddie Kramer producing, Todd Howarth, Ace Frehley chemistry worked very well. So thank you both Victor and Pamplemousse for your comments. And thank you everybody that voted. Make sure to vote. It's your right. And we put out a poll every week. Father Rocco. Thank you. Are you ready?
I think so.
Kiss and Misses. The bad ideas behind the makeup. Boy, I just love the title. If the thumbnails are half as good as the title, we might go viral for this one. But before we do, first let's talk about a couple bad ideas that didn't come to fruition. And thank God. All right, first thing I got, and this may end up being the funniest part of this entire episode. The first bad idea that did not come to fruition was the early makeup design. There is a picture out there. It is a black and white picture. I've only found one, and I can't even look at it without laughing. Number one, Ace looks like a chick. He's wearing this little hat with what looks like a little flower, with what looks like a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he looks like a woman, legitimately.
He looks like Monique with a cigarette.
Oh my God. Wow.
Monique is Ace's daughter, just if you don't know.
Wow. Yeah, he does. Wow. Monique, if you're watching us, if you have an open invitation to come on this podcast, and I can tell you we can film an entire episode just discussing this picture and how your father is a dead ringer for you. And we haven't even gotten to Jean. Jean looks like the ugliest woman I've ever seen in my entire life.
I would probably say that Jean is the reason why this look didn't stay.
God, I would hope so. I would guess that they liked the New York Dolls way too much at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's just terrible. And the funny thing is, and this is the truth, my opinion, Ace and Peter look better than Gene and Paul. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. This one's a little tricky because this one came out, but they got rid of it very quickly. But I think this is just a travesty. and that is the first Kiss album cover, and specifically Peter Criss's makeup. Now, the story behind this allegedly is that Peter didn't do his own makeup. It was done by, I guess, some makeup artist, and they were going for a tribal lion look. This is a tribal train wreck. It is horrific in every way, shape, or form. Look, I was a kid. I was young when I first saw Kiss. I've told this story before. I had a Kiss lunchbox. I was probably 5 or 6 years old. So it was around 78, 79. And that's kind of what started it for me. Peter was my favorite member. And it was based 100%, I think, on the makeup design. If he would have kept this makeup, he would have been nobody's favorite member ever. And yeah, train wreck. Well, we're going to put it up on the screen, but it's just terrible. There's nothing good about it. Every time I see that cover, I focus in on Peter's makeup and wonder, why didn't somebody stop everything and go, hey, go back.
Looking back, you see that it's cool. You see the evolution, how everything kind of started getting tighter and better.
And you can see in that cover that all their makeups evolved from there.
Right.
But Peter's by far was the worst. That first incarnation that's on that album cover is terrible.
We have to put the Rock and Roll Party as a bad idea, because I equate it to our scoring system when we did our albums. Destroyer would have probably been the top 5 for me, at least top 5 for me, if Rock and Roll Party wasn't on the album. So I'd say Rock and Roll Party is it definitely was a bad idea in my opinion.
What's wrong with you, dude? Rock and Roll Party should have been the lead single on that record.
How many gummies have you had?
No, I haven't had any gummies yet, but I can't figure out, like we all know this isn't the song. It's just noise. I don't know why. I guess when you're a genius like Bob Ezrin, somebody has to harness the genius to see the elder. I have nothing good to say. When we ranked all of these albums, I gave Rock and Roll Party a 0, and I was being kind. I should have went into negatives. I don't know why they put it there. It's easy. It's worse than Read My Body, and it is, I think, very easily the worst thing that Kiss ever put out. Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park. Look, I love this movie, but I love this movie for all the wrong reasons. I can sit down right now and watch this movie, and I laugh from the start to finish. But you're not supposed to laugh. Poor acting would be an understatement. Goofy plot would also be an understatement.
It's entertaining.
And it hurt their image with rock fans. And on top of all of that, if Kiss wasn't so dead set on microwaving everything and moving as fast as they could, if they could have slowed it down, and look, I understand they were at the peak of their fame, and there was probably money people telling them,
put something out, it'll sell. Put something out, just keep putting stuff out.
Right, but just imagine how that movie would have went if you stopped everything. You put all 4 of them into acting classes. I don't know how long.
Well, we talked about it too. It sold. It did sell.
It did sell, but it doesn't mean it's not terrible.
No, how do you not have quality control and have a stunt double who's not even the same color as one of the members of the band?
Oh, you didn't like that part?
I just thought Ace was having some kind of transitional period or something. I didn't know what was going on.
It's just a bad idea altogether.
Horrible idea.
It's one thing for them to have the stunt double that they had. it's another thing to have that stunt double and then Ace not show up for filming and they put him in a bunch of scenes where it's number one, clearly not Ace, and number two, it's a black dude. And on top of that, whatever the story is with Peter, because who the hell knows what the reality is, but you overdub Peter's voice, and any idiot, like I can't, that's what
And they
bothers me more
supposedly
than
overdubbed,
anything.
but they supposedly overdubbed Peter's voice because they didn't want the New York. Uh, I thought that excuse was the dumbest excuse I think I've ever heard.
It's terrible because if you listen to Paul's voice, and not Paul's voice, but Paul's accent,
It's the
it's
same.
as New York. The only
Right.
difference is, it seems to me like Paul doesn't have that accent anymore, but Peter does.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the difference in them and how you get rid of an accent.
I mean, it doesn't make a difference now, but I would want to know why that was a problem. But there was some good stuff in that movie. Like there's some scenes that I just think that are cool. Like I know you don't like I like them in the robes. I thought that was a cool. I liked it. It's kind of weird that they were still kind of all dressed up in the getup. You know,
Right.
it doesn't make sense, but I still think the robes look cool. I like Gene breaking through the wall. I like
Yeah, I like that part too. There's
the Peter
parts of
Crystal and
it.
Beth. I like the Beth part. It doesn't really fit in the movie, but I like that part. I like when I think one of my favorite parts is when they're beating themselves up at the towards the end, where each member appears and each one's beaten. They're getting rid of the imposters. I thought that was cool.
Look, there's a lot of good parts
Right.
in the movie, but as we discussed when we did the episode on the movie, if they would have slowed things down, taught these guys how to act, employed someone like, well, I'll bring this up again. You know, this was the idea of this movie was based loosely on Star Wars coming out in 1977. Well, you're the KISS Corporation. You're at the top of the world. Go hire George Lucas.
I mean, just hooligans, just for a second, close your eyes and just think about that movie. If you know the movie well, think about Star Wars quality in every capacity. Kiss Meets the Phantom in the Park in that vein, and how much different that movie is.
It's a great movie. I'll go one farther. If I was a billionaire, and I'm not, but if you buy 10 billion of these, maybe. Anyhow,
Guys, we're just having fun. Don't.
yeah, it's not even for sale yet. So
No, it's not
just
for
take the joke. I'm just
Yeah,
joking.
we're just having fun.
If you don't want to buy these, don't buy them. If
The
you want to
reason we're
buy them,
putting-
though,
Yeah,
we
and
appreciate the hell out of it.
And the reason we're putting a disclaimer because there's some channels that we love that like every 5 minutes they're shilling, and we're not ever going to be those kind of guys.
Well, I don't know if never. I mean,
We'll show you what is available.
this podcast is expensive to produce.
I know, but people will anyway.
Anyhow, if I had billions of dollars, I would 100% remake this movie. I would remake this movie. I think it would be great. Take the storyline and reimagine it.
Hey, you know what? Put Evan in Paul's makeup. Put Nick in Gene's makeup. Have them play the roles.
Did you just interrupt me?
No.
All right. Well, in case anybody doesn't know this, we can all say that this is an official Hooligan Nation podcast. The interrupter has done it again, and every time he does it, I forget what the hell I was going to say.
You were talking about recreating the movie because somebody gave you $1 billion.
No, if I had $1 billion.
Oh, I thought the song was "If I Had $1 Million."
That's an old song. Now $1 million, it's not that much money anymore, I guess. I don't know. I don't have a million and I don't have a billion. But if I did have $1 billion, I would buy the rights to this movie. I would cast professional actors. I would rewrite the storyline, and loosely base it off of this. And I would get what I consider a professional director And with CGI and all the special effects they have now, boy, you could make a
Absolutely.
kick-ass Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park.
Agreed.
Boy, if I wake up tomorrow morning and there's $1 billion under my pillow, that's well, maybe it's not the first thing. It's going to be a really long weekend in Vegas. And then when I get back on Monday, I'm going to recover. So let's figure about Thursday of next week. I'll start trying to plan that because I'm going to need Tuesday, Wednesday to hopefully recover if I live through the weekend.
But I bet you if you put a percentage, more Kiss fans like that movie than don't.
Oh, I agree with that. I love that movie. I said that to start this off,
Me too.
but I love that movie for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
It's just goofy, stupid, and it makes me giggle. The Elder, somewhat similar. Do you want to bring up When I Wish Upon a Star? No? Good.
All right. So the next bad decision or bad move or miss was the decision to do the 78 solo albums. The glaring thing to me is they thought it was going to solve some problems, and all it did was make Ace want to leave even more because he had more confidence that he didn't need them. Um, and you're also oversaturating the market. You're creating competition at a time when the band needs to find a way to stick together, and instead they're trying to outdo each other. There's so many reasons why it was a bad decision. I love the covers though. I love the way they do the covers.
Oh, the covers were great. I agree with that
But the decision in
completely.
general was bad decision.
Now think about this. You say that it created more competition, and I 100% agree with you. If Ace thought he was a star after that album came out, Ace knew he was a star.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that Ace, not to any fault of his own, thought, I don't need these guys anymore. I can do this on my own. But what we should all think about is the conversation that may or may not have happened between Paul and Gene when discussing the solo albums. Because there is no way that I think that Paul and Gene had a conversation and said, hey, what if Ace's album comes out better? Or for that matter, what if Peter's album comes out better? Paul and Gene thought they were going to run circles around Ace and Peter, and that just didn't happen.
Right.
Cut the Peter part out. But Ace clearly had the best album, and so that backfired. And the other part of that is the saturation to the market. What other band do you know of put 4 full-length albums out the same day? None. You can call them solo albums, but I'm pretty sure that people at that time saw that Kiss logo and said, this is a Kiss album. And you made people choose. You think of a kid from 12 to 17, 18, 19 years old buying 4 albums, one trip to the record store probably was a difficult thing to do for most kids that age. So you had to choose one. Which one would you have chosen?
Gene's my guy. I'm buying Gene's album.
After you listened to Gene's, would you have bought a second one?
Well, no, first I got to get the throw up out of my mouth.
Exactly. I would have bought Peter's. Can you imagine that? If I bought Peter's and you bought Gene's, and then we get together and I listen to Gene's and I'm like, Jesus, dude, that's terrible. And you listen to Peter's and you're like, Jesus, dude, that's worse. We would have never bought Paul or Ace's album.
Here's another aspect that I think is going to be a good take. How many Kiss fans had their favorite member, and it was almost kind of a competition between the fans? Gene's the best member. Ace is the best member. Peter's the best member. And you get the Gene album and you're like, and then you hear the Ace album from somebody else that has it, and you're like, oh man. You know what I mean? If you're in the camp of Gene, or you're in the camp of Peter, and you're in the camp, you know what I mean? Like it's an interesting thing to look at because there was a competition. I know that fans are like, oh, you like Ace? No, Gene's my guy, or Peter's my guy, or you know what I mean?
I can imagine, and look, I was 4 years old when the solo albums came out, but I can imagine that most Gene fans or most Peter fans weren't quite admitting that Peter or Gene were their guys
Right.
after those. Is that a cookie?
No. So, pretzel. Combos.
You got a combo?
I got a combo.
If
Right?
you throw it, I'll catch it in my mouth.
Open up. Open up. Oh, wait.
I'm sorry, folks. I can't get this guy to stop eating on camera, so I'm just going to join him
I'm
from
avoiding
now
dinner
on.
so we can film.
Yeah. Well, tell me about it. Well, that's because we're going for a record. The only other thing I can bring to the solo albums is did I talk about the saturation? I
No.
think I did.
No, I mentioned it. I just mentioned it in passing. I don't think you did.
The complete saturation of the market was a little egotistical. The fact that
Oh, yeah,
all
you did.
four,
No, you
all,
did, because then we went into.
I'll splice it in together. All four of the albums shipped platinum. Um, it was a travesty. It was kind of ignorant, I think, to do to the fan base. Uh,
It
You
was
know,
probably more of the label more pushing it than maybe even then.
it absolutely was. It's known fact. Neil Bogart made the decision to ship them platinum, and the way I understand it, a lot of them were sent back. So my next one is going to smack you in the face a little bit. It's not meant to degrade Dynasty in any way. Vinny Ponzi was just a bad idea. Everybody knows that Peter held the band hostage and said that if Vinny Ponzi didn't produce the album, he wouldn't have anything to do with it. That is a bad idea. By the way, there's a bonus bad idea. That's a bad idea for Peter Criss to demand the band do something, and then the producer that he wants decides that he's not good enough to play on the album. That backfired on Peter a little bit.
Big time.
And I still think Dynasty would have been a better album if it was more rockified, if it had a harder sound. I don't think anybody would have any problem. Anybody in the Hooligan Nation, anybody in Kiss Army, anybody that's a Kiss fan would have had a problem. Look, I'll be the first one to tell you, leave I Was Made for Loving You alone. Let it be the disco song. Just harden up the other songs a little bit, and just imagine the Creatures of the Night sound on Dynasty and Hooligan Nation. Tell me you wouldn't accept that and think it was better than Dynasty. Look, it's a theoretical question, and I like Dynasty, but I would like it more if it had a Creatures of the Night sound. And on top of that, Dynasty really isn't the problem that this comes up as a bad idea. Unmasked is the reason why. They just went too far pop. Now, think the same thing. Think of the Unmasked album and with the Creatures of the Night sound. Like, and the funny part is, and I don't know that this is funny because it really isn't funny, but the funny part is after 2 albums with Vinny Poncia, they get rid of him. They go back to Old Faithful, Bob Ezrin, and then they make The Elder. How does that happen?
Well, they said they were lost, right? How many times has Paul been interviewed saying that they were kind of like lost at that moment? Band was falling apart. The direction of what they were trying to go for was kind of like skewed a little bit. I think they got lucky putting out an album like Dynasty, in my opinion, because I've said it many times. I love that album, but to me, it's surprising they were to put out an album like that.
Well, Dynasty's the best of the 3. Like you talked earlier about things being grouped together. Dynasty and Unmasked are grouped together because of Vinny Poncia and the sound, but for me, I group Dynasty, Unmasked, and The Elder together, and Dynasty's by far the best one of the three of them, which allows us to segue directly into our next bad idea, which I'm going to steal from you, music from The Elder, because you come off of Dynasty and then Unmasked, and then you go to music from The Elder. And I know there's people out there that love it. There's nothing wrong with loving it. I like it a whole lot more today than I did 20, 30 years ago.
And listen, for those people who love it, that's great. I love that there's diverse fans, but it's undeniable that the band itself knows it was a miss. The majority of results of that album was a miss.
And it's proof, kids, drugs are bad. Because when your producer is snorting more cocaine than should be humanly possible, bad decisions are probably going to come with that. And I think by that time, at least in my opinion, Paul and Gene had become eccentric. The money was flowing in. They were on top of the world. And I think that little chinks in the armor were coming through because they were pissed off that music critics didn't like them and they weren't being looked at as great musicians. And it's unfortunate. And it's unfortunate because the fan base was telling them that they were doing the right thing.
Right. You want to be respected too as a musician, especially with all the work you're doing. They're obviously working their asses off.
And I think Paul and Gene have said this publicly. It was an ego-driven record. They were out to prove music critics wrong. No, you already proved your fan base right.
Right.
Imagine, everybody imagine this. Dynasty, go to Unmasked. Screw the pooch. It's okay. Follow that up with Creatures of the Night. And it's like almost hitting the ground, but then at the last second you get saved. No. They went for The Elder. And they crashed to the ground, and think about how long it took to recover from that.
Right.
Because Creatures of the Night didn't sell 500,000 copies at the time. And if you're a realistic person with some common sense, you got to know that's because people paid their hard-earned money for The Elder and said, nah, I'm not doing this again.
Right. Timing is everything. All right. So this is going to be considered a bad decision, but I kind of go back and forth with it because if I say bad decision on the Vinnie Vincent era, then I have to eliminate the stuff that he put down. And for all the pomp and circumstance about how bad a guy Vinnie is, it'd be hard for me to let go of that music that he helped create. But he everything he's ever touched, everybody he's ever been with, doesn't have a lot of good things to say about him. So you wonder if they didn't have the headache that Vinnie was, and maybe they went to Bruce a little bit earlier, or they didn't have that, maybe they didn't have that prima donna or that look at me kind of guy, and they had a good soldier. How much it would have changed the band. I'm not saying that Bruce wouldn't have put good stuff down. Would he have put the same incredible stuff that Vinnie put down at that time? I think it was a perfect storm, but you can consider it a bad decision. I think if you ask, and you know this too, I think if you ask Gene and Paul, if they had to do it over again, they would consider it a bad decision. And if they had a choice between taking somebody like Bruce as opposed to Vinnie, they would have never even walked into Vinnie. They would have just had Bruce.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to repeat what you said just now or not, but this is a complicated one because I agree with you. I don't know how much of the fan base would give up Creatures of the Night and Lick It Up to skip the Vinnie Vincent era. But I'm pretty sure that Paul and Gene would sign up for just about anything to not have dealt with Vinnie Vincent, the personality. Everyone that has anything bad to say about Vinnie always says the same thing. Great songwriter, great guitar player, terrible human being. So I think for the fan base, most fans would say, oh, hell no, I'm not giving up Creatures of the Night or Lick It Up. I think for the principals, Paul and Gene, oh no, we'd give him up. And I don't know whether you said this or not, but we've said this before. Bruce was a stabilizing part of KISS. It would have been nice to be able to go from Ace to Bruce. And we might as well throw the next one in, which is the Mark St. John era, and just group it all together, because you would have not only avoided the Vinnie Vincent era, but you would also avoided the Mark St. John era, which I think was just confusing. It looked like KISS had a revolving door. It looked bad for the brand. Look, we've talked about this. Animalize is a hit or miss record. But again, we go back to, I think this was the product of KISS microwaving things. It was all about speed. We have to get another record out. We have to go on tour. We have to make money. As far as business goes, and the correct business move would have been to slow things down.
100%. I definitely agree with you there.
Can't you? Are they that bad of judges of character that they just got lucky with Bruce? I mean, you bring Vinny in. Yes, Vinny can shred. But how long does it take to figure out that Vinny's an asshat?
Listen, if you're making a nice dinner for a family,
yeah, you ain't microwaving it.
You're gonna taste it. You're gonna test it. You're gonna make sure that it's good before it goes on the table.
Okay. If you're Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons, do you not take the time? Do you not? Number one, you can't find anybody that's got anything nice to say about Vinnie Vincent's personality or how he does business.
Yeah, there were no references checked there. Well, there.
Right, that's what I'm saying. What's everybody say? Oh, Vinny's a great guitar player. He's a great songwriter. He's a terrible human being. I just said it.
Yeah, they were probably warned. I would imagine somebody said something.
And that's what I'm saying. So you go with that guy. Okay, even the smartest people can make mistakes. There's geniuses out there. Look, Elon Musk's rockets, sometimes they crash. You crashed 2 rockets in a row because you went from Vinny to Mark St. John. And I don't want to hear the horse shit. I'm tired of hearing the horse shit about Mark St. John. Yes, he had a hand ailment. No, he didn't. I don't know whether he did or he didn't. But the way they dumped him and as quick as they dumped him and everything that I've heard, he wasn't the easiest person to deal with. He couldn't play the same thing twice. So you essentially microwaved 2 guitar players and you got the same outcome. Like, how the hell can you make that mistake twice in a row? You didn't make the mistake when you replaced Peter. Like, is that luck? And then look, I understand. Look, what they did with Bruce was take the time. It was on tour, but they took the time. By the time they went into the studio,
and they knew him too. They had a little bit of familiarity because of Bob.
Right?
But that helped.
But why? Imagine if they would have done that first. We might not have gotten Creatures of the Night. Look, I got a hard look. Vinny didn't even play on all the Creatures of the Night. He co-wrote, I think, 4 songs. And then he had a lot of involvement writing wise. I think he co-wrote 7 or 8 songs on Lick It Up. But if you're Paul or Gene, and nobody ever asks, everybody's got to throw these softballs at these 2 guys. And I can't understand why nobody wants to ask them the hard questions. Like, I say this all the time, but this might be my number 1 answer or my number 1 question. If we could get them on this podcast, which they're not coming on here because we're not going to throw them softballs. Paul and Gene, could you imagine getting them both together on this podcast for, oh my God, that would be so much fun. Anyhow,
Good
you
cop,
imagine,
bad cop, good cop, bad cop. Good,
I
bad cop, good
don't know.
cop.
But can you imagine getting them on there and asking, hey, in retrospect, would you have preferred to not have Vinny and not have Mark St. John and go right from Ace to Bruce? They would have to be idiots to not say, oh, we wish we would have went right to Bruce.
I'll tell you what, man. That's the other thing about Kiss. The what ifs never end. They never end. What if so he replaces Ace? Does he have makeup? Do they still do makeup? But what character? Like, there's so many layers to this. That's why you can never stop finding stuff to talk about.
Isn't that so interesting though? Because Bruce would have been the Ankh warrior.
No,
Well, you got to believe
he wouldn't have accepted that.
he would have accepted anything. In 1982, you're nobody off the street, and you're a member of KISS.
He would have came up with a cooler character.
Why do I feel as though they weren't giving him the option of that? I don't know, call me crazy, but it doesn't. I've never heard any story about Vinny having anything to do with the Ankh Warrior. Paul designed it.
What character would you give Bruce?
What character would I give
If you had
Bruce?
a choice, what character? Is totally crazy question. We can move on. It's been a long night.
I always liked the turtle man.
It's got to be a cool. Turtles aren't cool.
Bruce could have been the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle before the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. A guitar player in a half shell.
The attire that Kiss wore during the Asylum album and Gene's crazy getup, I would say that was definitely a miss.
Really? You didn't like that?
The music was good. I like Asylum. I'll definitely stand by that. I like the music on Asylum. The outfits were a little bit out there. Yeah, they were trying to follow some trends, and they were very bright and colorful.
Hooligan Nation, if you listened to the beginning of this podcast, and I sure hope you did listen to the beginning of it, and you saw the picture of KISS in the early makeup, I think this version is worse. For Gene, it's terrible. I've never seen anybody look more uncomfortable and more out of place in my entire life.
Well, especially when you go to the intense character he was before this.
The difference between Gene in the early makeup and Gene in the Asylum era is in the early makeup, he was trying to look like an ugly woman. In the Asylum era, he was trying to look pretty, and it was worse. It was terrible. It's just a bad idea. And you know what's unfortunate about it? What's unfortunate about it is the music takes the brunt. Because again, I think that people listen to Asylum with their eyes. They watch the videos, music videos were a big thing at the time, and they see this big lug, their demon, running around looking like a cross-dressing linebacker. And I think it makes the music sound worse. Asylum, I think, is a great record. What the part of it that isn't so great is the costumes and the overabundance of women's makeup. We're not talking about KISS makeup. We're not talking about Alice Cooper type makeup. We are talking about women's makeup.
To me, it shows that Paul had the majority of the decision making when it came to the look.
Sure, because Paul could pull it off probably better than everybody else.
Easily.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a good one, though. I mean, dude, I'm going to say this right now. We could do this all night. We have so many more that we could do this all night, but we're not going to do it all night. So we're going to end on this one, and then we'll discuss what we do from here. And for the last one, I have pulled the rabbit out of the hat because I got something that I do not think is widely known. And I have something that I'm absolutely 100% sure that you, Father Rocco, thank you, don't know about.
Really?
Did you know that KISS launched their own dating app? You
Man,
heard me correctly.
That's not funny.
KISS launched their own dating app. It's a great name.
This is a serious podcast. You really gonna make jokes now?
Oh, I'm serious.
No.
I had to do a little research. Look, it launched.
Oh my
It
god.
it was in the 2010s. It says KISS briefly launched a dating platform for KISS fans.
You sure it's not just for Gene to create another book?
This is how I know that the idea came from Gene. The idea was to find someone to rock and roll all night and love every day.
He's trying to stockpile.
Think about how creepy this is in reality. You cannot tell me that Gene was not on this dating app, checking out all the pictures of the women, and then private messaging them and being like, hey, I'm Gene Simmons. If this dating app would have caught on, Gene could have got at least 1,000 more women.
Bro, there are definitely days where it's things that we talk about sometimes on this thing where I'm like, damn, I wonder what the conversation with Shannon was like.
Why do I feel as though he didn't pitch this to Shannon first?
Oh, he definitely didn't pitch it, but when she found out about it, look out.
And the funny part, I guess that the funniest part of this is the fact that he not only pitched it, and look, before anybody jumps on me.
That went live. That actually went live.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I don't know for sure that this was a Gene Simmons idea, but Jesus, it sounds like a Gene Simmons
It's
idea.
not a Paul Stanley. I don't care. It's not a Paul Stanley idea.
No, I can't. Paul has his limits, and I
Yeah.
think that's over his limits. But Gene successfully pitched this. Like somebody put this out. Another question.
Wow.
Another question for Paul and Gene if they would come on this podcast. Hey, which one of you came up with the idea of the dating app, and who agrees that this is probably a terrible idea? It just blows my mind. And here, this was Gene's pitch, according to the internet. He pitched this as a Tinder for face-painted freaks.
Okay. Not for nothing. I mean, he's always been that dude.
Oh, he's that
always
dude.
been that dude. I mean,
Oh.
think about the time that the story they talk about, like ran around the Wicked Lester days, where he meets Paul for the first time, and Paul's like, "Hey, I'm a songwriter too," and he's like, "Yeah, let's see what you got," and he's like, "Wow, that's good." And then he starts playing something for Paul, and I don't remember what the song was, but what was the song?
My uncle is a raft.
Like a rat?
My uncle is a raft.
Like a raft, like you float on a raft.
Yep.
Your uncle is a. So wait, now Gene has also said many times that he's never done drugs.
That is correct.
So he has no excuse. Like you would think somebody's in the ozone, man. They're tripping on acid or something like that to come up with that title.
Can you imagine? Let's act this out, okay?
Okay.
Paul and Gene meet each other. Gene says, Stanley, I'll have you know that I'm a songwriter. And Stanley says, well, Gene, I'm a songwriter also. And Gene says, well, Stanley, why don't you play me a song? And Stanley, before he was Paul Stanley, he busts out Strutter, because I believe it was Strutter as the story goes. And Gene looks and goes, oh. And then Stanley says, Gene, what are you going to play for me? And Gene says, with a straight face, I'm sure, I'm going to play you one of my best songs that I've written. It's My Uncle is a Raft.
Huh?
Once again, I'd love to get Paul on this podcast and ask him why he didn't run out and get as far away from Gene as humanly possible after listening to My Uncle is a Raft.
If I'm Gene, I'm making up a story that I did drugs back then, just so I can make it look like I was not of my sane mind coming up with a title like that.
If I'm Gene, I'm changing the facts of that story.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not telling anybody that was the name of the song. By the time anybody wanted to know questions like that, I'm guessing like he would have had enough time that like you pull Paul aside and you go, hey, look, people are going to start asking us questions like this. And I'd like to tell this story, but I got to change the title of the song. I can't be telling people in public that it was My Uncle is a Raft.
Yeah, work with me for a minute. Just follow my lead for this one.
Oh,
You're sitting at a desk in a chair. You got a pen, you got paper, and you're trying to come up with a title for. You're trying to come up with something, an idea for a song. You're brainstorming. Where the F are you coming up with that thought? How does that happen? How in the world does that happen without drugs?
that's where we end the episode.
Yeah, I think so.
And we end the
That's
episode
appropriate.
at My Uncle is a Raft because we just can't top it. Hooligans, before we go and we leave you to your own devices, we have tons more of these bad ideas. So please do us a favor. A lot of times, you guys might not realize this, but a lot of times our relationship is heavily one-sided. You get to know what we're thinking. We have a lot harder of a time to know what you're thinking. We appreciate every comment, but not everybody comments. And, some people comment and they don't want to spend the time. So they comment as few words as possible. And look, I completely understand that. The truth is, I do that a lot on other channels that I watch and other podcasts that I watch. So I understand that. But when it comes to this episode, if you guys enjoyed this, please let us know in the comments because we probably have enough material for 2 or 3 more episodes like this. And before you get panicked if you hated this, we're not going to do this for the next 2 or 3 weeks because we both are ADD people and it bores us. But we'll do it down the line and we'll do a series of episodes if you guys like this. Me personally, look, I'm going to be honest. It's 11 o'clock at night. And once again, for the second time since we started this podcast, we got on here at 6:30 at night and we filmed the entire episode. And I'm that somebody, I forgot to hit record. So we've been at this for almost 6 hours and we're going to stop here.
But we're a team. We're in this together. So.
But we enjoyed the hell out of doing this twice.
We did, yeah.
And laughed way more than usual. And some of these episodes work. And some of them are just fun to do. And Father Rocco, thank you. I don't know about you, but I had fun doing this twice.
Yeah, I did too. I'm tired, but yeah, I did too.
Hooligans, if you enjoyed this, please drop it in the comments below and we will revisit this idea. Look, if you guys don't like it, put in the comments that you don't like it or don't put the comments in and you'll probably never see this again because we're just not going to push out shit that you guys aren't going to enjoy. Right.
And there's other lanes with fans and hooligans too. So like if this is spurred on any ideas that you have of things that KISS has done that you considered, they're bad ideas or whatever, put them in the comments. Any ideas you guys have, anything you want to interact, future episodes you may think you want us to do, your feedback matters. You guys are just as much a part of this as we are. So, your involvement is very much valued.
Yeah, we're definitely not pandering. Like, we're trying to put out material that the Hooligan Nation likes. And I have to tell you, I really liked this episode. I had fun doing this episode. I had so much fun doing this episode. We did it twice. If you're listening to us on any of the podcast platforms, please leave us a review. And if you just found us, check out our past episodes. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel and you like this episode, please consider hitting the like button, just like him, and leaving us a comment. Hit that subscribe button, just like him, so you don't miss any future episodes. And check out these episodes right here. As always, if you made it this far and you know your uncle isn't a raft, thank you for supporting us. And don't forget, if it's too loud, you're too old. Peace out, Hooligan Nation.